You're watching a replay of Brain Drain with Rich Cabaceres. For more videos just like this, hit that red subscribe button.
Happy Thursday. This is Brain Drain. I'm Rich Cabaceres, coming to you live from the legendary 1480 WSAR studios in Somerset, Massachusetts. You can catch us live on WSAR.com, Spindle City Auto Glass Studio Cam, where you can see I have a special guest in studio who we're going to get to in the second break, or right after the first break, I should say. You can watch us on J&J Diamond Jewelers Facebook Live Cam by going to Brain Drain with Rich Cabaceres. You can also join the conversation below. You can get us on the TuneIn Radio app. And for those of you who are reaching out to me on the J&J Jewelers Facebook Live Cam already, good morning. It's good to see that you're here alive with me here today and having the conversation, because we're going to dive into some serious topics. We're going to dive into one of my favorite topics, and that is education. How can we make sure that you, if you're going to school right now, or your children or your children's children, have all the ability in the world to succeed after they graduate from high school, and where they can go to make sure that they have a better opportunity to go throughout life. And unfortunately, it seems that the way the economy is today, it's very difficult for somebody to be able to graduate from high school and get a job that's paying the bills. Unfortunately, a lot of people are underemployed. And this idea that people have to continue to just go to college to get a better job isn't working. Right now, one of the statistics that's coming out of the University of Washington is 53% of college students are underemployed or working at a job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. So why do people insist on going to a college, get a 4-year degree, when the statistics or the cost-benefit analysis isn't supporting that? So even then, if they go and they get that, the 53% go and get that job, it takes them 3 to 6 months after graduation to go and get that job. So the question would be, is there a better way to do this? And we're going to talk about the value of a vocational education, and is that a better way than actually going down a 4-year degree? And obviously I'm kind of setting it up because I believe that having a vocation can do nothing but help. And you have the opportunity to join in on this conversation as we talk about it after we kind of have our special guest in studio. Again, that is Superintendent Tom Aubin, who is the superintendent of the Paragon of Vocational Education in the United States, and that is Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School. And if you're watching around the country and you recognize the name, you may recognize it because the rebuttal for the State of the Union address happened at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, where Joe Kennedy gave the Democratic rebuttal. And to be clear, Diamond is not a partisan organization. They simply are the paragon of vocational education, and you had somebody who is at the federal level realize that. They're doing great things over there, and the good thing about this is kids who graduate from high school are going out and getting jobs that are paying greater than the median income in the supporting area, which, when you think about it, if you can graduate from high school and have in the bank the same amount of money that, and over the same amount of time that you would pay in student loans, so $120,000, $100,000 that you were able to bank as opposed to pay out over a 30-year time, 20-year time, which is the better cost-benefit analysis for you? Is it a graduate degree, or to continue on to a graduate degree, or is it going and getting a vocational education? Because the odds of you going and getting a job with a vocational education is highly more likely, and a good paying job at that. You don't meet the natural statistics of somebody with a high school diploma. You're in a separate field in and of itself. Now, there are access to vocational education when you graduate from high school. That exists. You can go to night school at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School. You can go to one of these other vocational schools or tech schools that are in your region. But it seems to give people an opportunity to succeed when there previously wasn't one, because again, 53% of college graduates are either unemployed or they're underemployed because they're working at a job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. So some additional statistics for you. 34.3% of college students work in a job that doesn't require a degree. So out of that 53%, 4.3% of them don't work in a job that requires a degree, and 44.2% of those are recent college graduates. So when you really dive into it, majority of the people who are underemployed because of the fact that they're working at a job that doesn't require a degree. So then the common sense would come in and say, why do you have to go get that degree if almost half of you don't need your degree in order to work where you are? Well, I think part of it is because employers are looking for a degree even if you don't need a degree for the job that you've attained. So are we pricing ourselves out of the market? Are we allowing businesses to take us after we spend tons and tons and tons of money, our own personal money, above and beyond taxes on an education? Or should we just go and try to learn as much as we possibly can through the process of college and through the process of a vocational education, or do both and succeed wildly? Because that opportunity is out there. So here's some statistics that's pro-college. So right now, if you graduate with a 4-year degree, you make, on average, $43,000 a year compared to $26,000 a year if you have a high school diploma. So the cost-benefit analysis says that if you're just got a straight high school diploma and you go out to work, you're going to make more money by about $17,000 a year, more so than those people with a high school diploma. So again, I pose this to you, the listeners, and I pose this to our special guest in the studio who's going to be coming back to break with us, and we're going to do an interview with him. Again, that's Superintendent Tom Aubin from the Paragon of Vocational Education, Diamond Road Regional Vocational Technical High School. I will see you all on the other side of the break. You can join the conversation, 508-673-1480, or you can join J&J Diamond Jewelers Facebook live cam and comment there. Somebody says, no matter what a vocational education is great. Even if you go to college after, you still have something to fall back on as well. And that's a very, very fair point. It's something I hear on a regular basis, and it's something that we're going to continue to talk about on the other side of the break. And today we have in studio with us the famous superintendent of Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, the Paragon of Vocational Education, Tom Aubin. How are you doing today?
I am doing exceptionally well. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And it's great to have you on because obviously, and just a little background of how I know you, you were actually my history or social studies teacher when I went to Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School. And yeah, it's been, you've kind of moved up the ranks from a vocational Diamond student to a teacher to being the dean of students, right?
That's correct.
To moving up to vocational coordinator, and now you're the superintendent of the school. How about that? You worked your way up with a vocational high school degree.
I was very fortunate to have great people in my life, and they helped me along the way. So it's a credit as much to them as it is to me. But I will tell you that having students like yourself made teaching a lot of fun every day. So.
Well, I was kind of a pain in the butt when I was there, but thank you so much for just like I am on the air. I'm sure my boss can attest to that. Yeah, I was kind of a pain in the butt, but thank you so much for kind of saying that it was because of people like me. It was more so for people like the valedictorians and the people who worked really, really hard. But it gave me an opportunity to succeed because ultimately I came from a background where I was poor. I was living on my own at 17 years old, barely struggling to get by, and you kind of straightened me out a little bit. I signed up for the military, and the rest was history after that. And I'm sure you hear a lot of stories like that.
All the time, and it's very encouraging. And graduation for the administrative team and the teachers is a very special day because we realize this is the beginning of really great things for many of our students. So, it's interesting the dynamic that takes place during graduation and how emotional it can be when you realize that students are going to improve their lives and improve the lives of their children. That's pretty special.
And the reason why I want to talk about this at the beginning is because I want to make it clear that I have a bias. And so that way, if you're listening right now, I have a bias, and you do too. But the good thing about you as superintendent is you embody exactly what the school teaches, which is if you work hard and you pay your dues, you're going to make your way to the top. You did exactly that.
Yeah, again, I had wonderful people that were took me under their wing for whatever reason, and I'll always be indebted to them, not only for the success that I've been able to realize, but the improvements that we've hoped to give to the students that have come after me. So
yeah, and I think it's obviously you're a very humble guy, but you're a very passionate guy. So tell me the case on why people should go to a vocational technical high school as opposed to a regular high school and a 4-year degree, or should they continue on to a 4-year degree after they go to your high school?
That is an incredibly deep question that I'll try and narrow down as best as I can. I think the decision on what school you go to really is a very personal one. So I am convinced that the comprehensive schools, in their own right, are doing an exceptional job. I can only speak for why I believe a technical education is important. The first is options, and our co-op coordinator Kevin Lazaro, he says it all the time. The great thing about Diamond Regional is that it provides you options. At the age of 18, I had a very good paying job, and there was no way I was going to college. And then all of a sudden, in September, I was in Southeastern Massachusetts University, because life is very interesting. It goes in different directions very quickly. So it's really important that at Diamond that we recognize that we have a college track, we have a work track, and both of them have to be given great deals of attention, because they're extremely important for students to have options, and we love the fact that we provide that for our kids.
And that's the most important part, is options. In life, it's good to have more than one door to choose. And it sounds like Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School does that. Now, what I hear a lot is there are a lot of traditional high schools who are trying to offer trades or shops to children who are going to their high schools. What sets you apart from, say, every single high school having a variety of trades to choose from?
I think the difficult challenge that they face, and I understand completely why they're doing it, because there's a huge demand for this type of education, and it's understandable. The difficulty that they have is that, we do this for 6.5 hours in the course of a day. There is something that is really special about a 6.5 hour class, and it helps to, first of all, build those relationships between teacher and student, where that trust relationship allows for students to take risks and many times do things that they never thought that they could do. And I think that is a major advantage that we have in a technical school. Now, I will share this with you, that as time moves on and the technology increases exponentially relative to these trade programs, I think you're going to see a morphing of both the vocational and technical and academic schedule. We have some real great challenges that we're facing, and I'm really looking forward to working with my terrific administrative team and teaching staff to meet those challenges.
And in case you're tuning in right now, we have Superintendent of Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, Tom Aubin. They are the paragon of vocational education around the country, and I have him here in studio with me so we can talk about vocational education and the advantages that it provides to people who go to some of these vocational high schools. If you want to see him in studio, you can go to WSAR.com Spindle City Autoglass Studio Cam, where right behind me you can see the camera that's looking at Tom Aubin, and we are having a conversation about vocational education. And you pointed out one of the difficulties of being a vocational school, and one of those is standardized testing. In Massachusetts, we have the MCAS, and standardized testing is something, because you're a public school, you still fall under. Now, how challenging is that compared to the traditional 5-day-a-week traditional curriculum?
I think the difficulty is that, quite frankly, we have to teach all students. So the challenges are great, just like comprehensive schools. And so we've done a very nice job. Our teaching staff has been exceptional. The administrators have done a great job of putting students in a position to be successful. And, I'm proud to say that we moved from a level 2 to a level 1 school last year. And so, but let me be clear that that's not the only measure of success of a young man or young woman,
And, I think that's important to say, but because ultimately a lot of people aren't passing these MCAS tests. They're not passing these standardized tests, and they're not able to move on with a diploma. They have a certificate of participation. But the interesting part about you being a level 1 school, that means that a certain amount of people actually had to pass that standardized test. And even the surrounding communities are having a difficult time being level 1. So that's hats off to you for having 2 weeks strictly towards shop, and then the other 2 weeks towards academics, and you're still able to pull that off, which is amazing.
Well, in some cases we have an advantage, because the academic and technical are becoming so melded that there's no separating them. There just isn't. And so, the other thing that we have going for us is the fact that it's clear that project-based learning is a real winner relative to engaging students where they would otherwise not be engaged. And it has nothing to do with intellectuality. It has to do with who you are. As I remember you as a student. You sitting in a chair was a very difficult thing because you were 90 miles an hour all day long. So if you imagine doing that now for 6.5 hours, I'm not sure you would have had the success that you had, but you went to probably the premier program in the United States, the Machine Tool program, which is now called Advanced Manufacturing, and you were able to get sort of that sort of high energy out in a very productive way. And what we're doing is we're moving in that direction both on an academic level and a technical level.
And we have to go into a commercial break, but I'm hoping you'll stay for one more segment with us because I have some more questions. I want to talk about the economics of how valuable this degree can be for somebody who actually attends Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School or any tech school, and the advantages that gives somebody in the workplace. So I hope that you'll be willing to stick around for another 10.
It would be an honor.
All right. Thank you so much. Today in studio, we have the superintendent of Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School. That's Tom Aubin, and they are the paragon of vocational education around the U.S., and it's funny because he laughs every single time, but I don't think they would be there if it weren't for your leadership. What say you?
Oh, no. We have a terrific team. We're going to be having the business community come in for a MSBA informational luncheon, and one of the things that we're going to do is have them actually see both academic and technical classes going on, and you have to see the magic that takes place. And I mean, you experienced it, so you got it. It's unbelievable. What a great team we have. I'm just lucky enough to be the superintendent. That's the truth. Yeah.
And so the lines are lighting up right now. Before we go to the lines, I just want to make one statement and have your comments on it, and then we can go right to the calls. But one of the things is when you actually read a lot of the information about vocational as opposed to college, it says that the cost-benefit analysis of getting a vocational education is far greater than that of going to a college. What say you about that?
Yeah, that can be very trade-specific. I'm always leery about, things, and I don't really believe that they're mutually exclusive. I really benefited from going to college. It really opened up my world. Recently, Gene Sharp passed away. He was 90 years old. He was the leader of Nonviolent Revolution and taught at both Harvard and SMU. Meeting him changed my life in terms of my outlook, my political outlook. And, again, I was able to share that with, great students like yourself. So, but that being said, I mean, our kids are graduating right now, and they're starting, anywhere between $16 and $21 an hour. And that's pretty good money. Regardless, so with no student loans.
And it's funny that you say that because at $16 to $21 an hour, that's greater than the median income in the city that you are located in. So actually, one person instead of a household income, one person is making the equivalent of the household income in the city that your school is located, which is amazing coming out of high school.
Yeah, that's part of our mission. I mean, obviously, we have a role to help transition this community around economically, and we are passionate about it because we love our community, and we feel that we are going to be playing an integral role. But to do that, we need to stay on top of the changing markets.
So considering that, right now, why don't you have, so right now you're at capacity, why don't you have, say, another 2,000 students come into your school, considering that you're helping the market succeed?
I really can't explain to the listeners how tight we are in terms of space. We literally have taken closets and utilized them for whether it be conference rooms or offices. We are maxed out.
But you also have a waiting list. There are people who are desiring to go to your school to succeed once they graduate from high school, and unfortunately you're not able to even meet that demand. How could the economy change if you were able to, say, provide a vocational education to an additional 2,000 students, a capacity of 2,000 students?
Yeah, we took a look, and again, when we issued our statement of interest, we took a good look at the market, and our figuring was anywhere between 1,600 to 1,800 more students during the day. But that doesn't include the night offerings that we are offering and want to expand on, because we have a terrific LPN program, as you know, and our night school is expanding just beyond code courses to everything from enrichment to things that can get people out into the workforce without having to wait 4 years, because people don't have that time. And luxury.
I think you're bringing up some very, very good points, because there are still people who want this education or type of education. We're going to go to the lines and see what callers think. You're live on Legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Rich.
How you doing today?
Good. Good morning, Mr. Alburn.
Good morning.
Just, I'll make it fairly quick. I graduated in 1968, and this is the days of I was in the machine shop, the days of John Peroni, Mr. Farignaz, and Ziggy Ziobro. So I'm dating myself, to say the least.
But I know all three of them. Absolutely.
Having said that, I want to say I am so happy I had gone to Diamond. And let me tell you, I graduated, got a job, left in May like everybody else, and went back for graduation in June. I found myself, very first day on the job, supervisor asked me if I could stay 4 hours over. I think that was the beginning of overtime for a good portion of my life, to say the least. I found myself making much more money as a person that was 17 going on 18 years old than a lot of the gentlemen that had, a wife and 2 and 3 kids. I was very thankful. I was able to save money. I joined the Navy. Now, in less than 2 years from the day I graduated, I reported to the USS Hunley, AS-31. It was named after the Confederate submarine in Charleston, South Carolina. We serviced nuclear submarines, the OSSBNs.
And it's funny that you say that, because
I found myself working on nuclear submarines, a graduate from Diamond from Florida. Go ahead, sir.
And it's funny that you say that, because a lot of people transition from Diamond to the military. I did the same thing, and because of machine shop, which I went to the same exact shop, and the I would say paramilitary type regimen that they have there, it gave me the discipline necessary to succeed in the military.
What happened with me, I was in Newport, Rhode Island, and there was a fellow that was a tool and die maker also that just come in. He was from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And the Navy sent for our marks at Diamond. And what they did is gave us an automatic striker. An automatic striker was that when I reported to any ship, what I was going to be doing is working as a machinery repairman. So I wasn't going to get to some ship as a machinist by trade and end up doing something totally different, which I was very thankful for. And to say that made my life a lot easier in the Navy would be an understatement. When I left the Navy, went back to work in a trade. I bought my home. Life was good. And then later on, I worked with the power company. Diamond was a great start, was a great stepping stone. And all I can say is if you apply yourself, you invest your money, you do the right thing, stay out of trouble, you go to Diamond, you can have a very, very bright future. And I think Diamond truly, in the trade, it teaches you to think. It teaches you to analyze. It does so much more to enrich your life.
And I want to thank you so much for your call, because I think you bring up some very, very great points. And thank you for telling us about your experiences. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Diamond.
Have a great day. You're live on legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing, son?
My son went to Diamond. He's now a master plumber. I can't thank Diamond enough. They gave him an excellent education. He has an excellent future, and he makes an excellent income. And he has a nice family, has a nice house. Thank you, Diamond. You're outstanding.
Well,
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Well,
you guys rock.
Well,
thank you so much.
Well,
Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, but we get great kids that come in, and we want to thank you for sending such a wonderful person to us. You hit the nail on the head. There's no magic to the fact that you do have to work hard. The standards at Diamond are high, and they're getting higher because it's a rigorous education to be successful.
And I think that's the important thing to point out, because people are graduating from Diamond and they don't have a lack of experience to be able to go to other colleges. Where are some of the colleges that people are graduating from Diamond and going off to?
Oh God, this year we're really excited about the fact that we have our first Ivy League accepted student. He's going to the University of Pennsylvania. We have another student who is accepted to Boston University, Suffolk University. We have one that's applied to Brown. And, of course, we have a host of them, and we're very proud of our UMass Dartmouth and BCC people. I mean, go Corsairs,
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because people who go to a community college, per the statistics, are more likely to succeed cost-benefit analysis-wise, because they go to a 2-year degree and then they move on to a 4-year degree. They have less student loans. So, really, the economics behind a vocational education or even community college work out in your favor. So this idea that you have to go from a high school to a 4-year college or an Ivy League school, something like that, that's kind of going away. And people with a 4-year degree from a state college are just as likely to succeed as somebody with a 4-year degree from an Ivy League school. Now, when you get to the master's level and the graduate degrees, that's a different story. But the statistics are showing that you have pretty close to an equal shot to succeed regardless of where you go for your 4-year degree. And it's also showing cost-benefit analysis-wise, you're better off going to a vocational technical high school or even a vocational college, graduating from there because you pay a lot less in student loans, and you're able to bank a lot more money, and the break-even point is somewhere around 15 to 20 years.
Well, it's interesting you're saying that because we're going to have our first Chapter 74 approved program at night, and that is Machine Tool, now Advanced Manufacturing.
And how about that? So if you didn't have the opportunity to go to Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, the paragon of vocational education in the United States, as a high school, you have that opportunity for college or a college equivalent. And you also work with local colleges. You said that you were working with BCC.
Sure. I've met with President Douglas 4 times. She is a forward thinker. And so, first of all, we're continuing to hopefully expand. One of the programs that we have is a program with business technology where by the time they graduate, if they participate in this, they graduate with 29 college credits from Bristol Community College, and they're able to get their associates in 1 year.
Wow.
So we're looking to try and expand on that. And there's some other things that she's doing that, I think Diamond really wants to play a role in, and she seems to be really forward thinking. It's really exciting. Like I said, she's been at Diamond 4 times. I met with her this week about, I congratulated her about the wind power agreement she has with a company out of England, and we're, obviously the expansion of wind power will mean more technicians are going to be needed.
Now, it's funny because when you look at vocational education, again, I call you the paragon of vocational education in the United States.
I got to say, Rich, we have a lot of great vocational schools out there. So, to my brothers over in
but to your model is something that's proven to succeed. But unfortunately, it seems like a lot of high schools are trying to duplicate the model, but don't have the resources to do it. And why wouldn't they more so want to work with you?
Oh, you know what? I think we have a good relationship with our sending community superintendents. I mean, we speak on a regular basis. I've already had a couple of meetings with Dr. Malone about the fact that we should absolutely have a student exchange program. They're 2 miles away from us. They have a terrific art music program. They have great AP. The things that we can't offer, we should certainly provide to our students via, Durfee or Somerset or Westport or Swansea, and they
Right.
should be able to send their students over as well and get a technical education, or at least a feeling of a technical education. So we're open to that, and I got to say, with all 4 superintendents, we're really working towards that sort of regional goal.
And, it's funny because you're right. Traditional high schools have great AP programs. They have great advanced placement programs. They have a great opportunity to be able to prepare people for college because they're doing it for every single week, as opposed to going into shop 2 weeks and then going into academics 2 weeks. But that being said, your students are still graduating and still being successful in college. So
part of that, Rich, is the fact that the world of technical education is changing so quickly. If I may, just for 1 second,
Sure.
I mean, when you look at autonomous vehicles, Toyota just invested $2.8 billion in artificial intelligence. We look at that and say we can't sit here. So what we're trying to do is raise money for an artificial intelligence robotics laboratory because we can't wait for that. It's here.
And 3D printing is big right now too.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we contacted a purveyor. I don't want to say who it is, but we're looking to possibly get at discount or maybe a contribution a 3D printer in metals, which was a breakthrough technology in 2013, and 5 years later is being marketed. It's being marketed. So this is how quickly things are happening.
That's amazing, and you're trying to stay ahead of the curve. So it seems to me, and anybody who is kind of using logic with this conversation would say, why aren't high schools pairing with you, sending their kids over to Diamond to get a vocational education, and why wouldn't advanced placement kids be sent over to some of these high schools? And it sounds like that's something that you want to work towards.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes it's a scheduling issue, and sometimes it's it's old habits die hard. But I have to say that the leadership in the surrounding communities is really working hard to be progressive, and I truly believe that we have a great opportunity at this moment to do things not just for Diamond Regional, but for students throughout this region to pick up the economic viability of our region.
And it's really, really cool because ultimately when you graduate from Diamond, your likelihood to be able to get a job that's already paying the median household income in the community is highly likely. And you've proven that time and time and time again.
242 students are on co-op right now.
You got it. So thank you so much for coming in, speaking with us. We're going to continue the conversation after the break about vocational education, college, and what is the best way to make sure that you have the best bang for the buck, and is the workplace conducive towards getting a college education at this point in time, or is it something that you should kind of slowly build up after going and getting a job? Where we are talking about vocational education, and we're talking about whether that is a way to allow people to succeed when they go off into the workplace after they graduate, and not whether. We actually talked about how great a vocational education actually is, and I don't think there is any denying the fact that vocational education gives kids a step up when they graduate from high school. The question is it more advantageous than going off to a 4-year degree as if you could only do one or the other? And we heard from Superintendent Tom Albin multiple times that college is still available to kids who go to a vocational technical high school. They had somebody get accepted to Penn. They had somebody apply to Brown. They're going to private schools, Ivy League schools. They're going to college after they graduate from high school with additional advantages than somebody who is passing and graduating with a regular high school diploma. Somebody on Facebook Live on the J&J Jewelers Facebook Live cam says, vocational education is great. Trust me. I didn't stay in my trade, but I learned great work skills that carry into my current career. And, I can personally say that. I didn't stay in my trade, but it gave me the skills necessary to succeed in life, at least I think succeed in life. And I hear the same kind of story when I talk to people who graduate with a vocational education. So if you want to check out what they're doing at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, you can go check them out at Stonehaven Road in Fall River, Massachusetts. And if you want to grab lunch there, by the way, they have this cool place, room 251, and the food is presented to you by the kids who are in culinary arts. So they're giving you multiple courses, and you're able to sit down, pay for a meal that is brought to you by students, and the meal is it's amazing. Like, I can't believe if I closed my eyes and opened them up again, I wouldn't believe that I was sitting in a high school because the experience is that great. So if you haven't had lunch yet at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, you need to go check out room 251 and really go over there, check them out. The price is affordable, and the meal is brought to you by kids. And by the way, it supports education. It supports the opportunity for these kids to be able to practice on somebody, and you wouldn't even realize that you're eating at a high school based on the ambiance, based on the quality of the food. And I like to think that I know great food. I've turned you on to some great places like Agoro's Pizza Bar and Grill. I've turned you on to some great traditional places like Nick's, where you can get scallops for $12. Sea scallops. You can get fish and chips for $7, and they have been making hot dogs since the 1920s. So I'd like to think that I have a pretty good judge, and when I go to see the experience at room 251 at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, it's unreal. So again, that's on Stonehaven Road in Fall River, Massachusetts. Go check them out. And to dive back into the statistics again, because I think it's important that we talk about how readily accessible jobs are to people who have various degrees. So right now, 53% of people, according to University of Washington, who have a college graduate, who are college graduates, are unemployed or working jobs that don't require a bachelor's degree. And of that number, 34.3% of that 53%. So I'm sorry, let me correct that. So greater than half of that 53% are working jobs that don't require a bachelor's degree. So when you really think about it, part of the reason why people continue to go to college doesn't make sense, because more than a quarter of the people who have college degrees are working jobs that don't require a college education. And the question has to be asked, why? Why are people going and getting this college education if they can't find a job in their field? Again, 53% of college graduates are underemployed. Wow. Think about that for a second. That is crazy. So, again, what can you do in the workplace to set yourself apart from everybody else? And I think the answer is a vocational education. Because if you graduate from a traditional high school, it's very, 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 very difficult to go and get a job that is going to be able to pay the bills without either moving on to college or moving on to get a vocation. So if you go to a regional vocational high school, technical high school like they have in Massachusetts and they have in a lot of other states, you're more likely to succeed. And part of it, there's multiple reasons. One is the cost-benefit analysis. If you go to a vocational technical high school, you paid nothing to go to that school because it was part of your public education. So you graduate and you go directly into the workforce, and while kids are paying $30,000, $35,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year to go to college, you're making that sum of money. You are putting that money in the bank. And when you're putting that money in the bank, you're able to save that money and you're able to start earning a lot faster, which means that the cost-benefit analysis is more likely going to work in your favor. Because when you also graduate after paying for that 4-year degree, you have all this student loan debt. You have all $100,000, $120,000, $200,000 in student loan debt. So now you have to not only go and get a job that might pay $40,000 a year, $45,000 a year if you're lucky, but on the flip side of that, you're also losing $10,000 of that money because you're paying student loan debt for a good portion of your life. So you're making less, even after graduating from college, after you factor in expenses, than somebody who would have graduated from a college degree and already earned 4 years worth of income and made more income because they're probably getting pay raises to continue to stay employed, than somebody who, if you graduate with a 4-year degree. So really, when you think about it, where is the financial incentive to get a 4-year degree today? Especially if you work in one of these liberal arts. You're going out making $30,000 to $40,000 a year. And that's if you work in a place that is pretty wealthy economically. If you're working in the middle of the country, you might make $20,000 to $30,000 a year. And then you have to pay this student loan debt that is $5,000 to $10,000 a year in payments. Where does it work out? How does it fiscally work out for you? Because my concern is as time goes on, people are going to go more and more and more in debt, and eventually they're not going to be able to pay off that debt. And who's going to have to bail them out? It's going to ultimately be the government. But the government isn't going to be able to do it because we already have so much debt. We had somebody said on Facebook Live that out of high school I was making more than some of my friends that graduated high school. And that happens a lot because they go into the trade, they work, and they tend to make more money than people who even go to college, which is crazy when you think about it, because people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an advanced education, and unfortunately, it doesn't have the cost-benefit analysis to support it. So this show today is brought to you by Prestige Automart and their family-owned business since 2003. Prestige Automart really is your premier destination for quality used cars. Stop by any one of their 3 great locations, Westport or Taunton, Massachusetts, or East Providence, Rhode Island, to see Jeff and Manny and look over their more than $10 million worth of cars, trucks, minivans, SUVs, and luxury automobiles. There's something at Prestige for everyone, and with interest rates starting at just 1.9 APR and guaranteed credit approval of the car is free, there's no reason to look anywhere else. So head over to Prestige Automart today. Tell Jeff and Manny that I sent you, and you'll be driving home in the perfect new-to-you car today. We're going to go back to the lines because guess what? We're talking about education and how valuable an education actually is, and what is the best way to get an education that will help you succeed through life, especially economically. You're live on legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you doing today?
Hey, how's the tech world doing?
You know, I think it's going pretty well based on what Superintendent Tom Aubin said, who's the superintendent of the Paragon of Vocational Education in the United States, which is Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School.
Yes. Yeah, well, there's a waiting list, and I believe the new Durfee will offer some of the same programs. But
that's an interesting question because they've been offering vocational programs for years, and
Durfee?
Yeah, Durfee. They've been offering a couple of Nope. They offer culinary.
Cosmetic?
They offer cosmetology. I think they offer woodworking. But when you look at the success of people who graduate from those schools and go on into the trade, as opposed to a vocational technical high school where that is what they do, I think that there's a vast difference. And I think it was brought up while the superintendent of Diamond was here, is that vocational technical high schools succeed at giving people a vocational education, and they might not necessarily be able to provide that advanced placement that a traditional high school could provide. So the question that I ask is, why are they competing with each other as opposed to working together?
Well, again, I mean, we got Rogers High School up in Newport, who has a bunch of
and that's Newport, Rhode Island. Yep.
Yeah. Office to the region of Rhode Island. Anyway, I mean, if you're from Newport, you're basically going to go to that high school.
And here's the interesting.
You want to pick up a trade, it's a good thing. Like what you're saying with Durfee, maybe, I don't know.
And here's something interesting. When you go get a culinary arts degree at Diamond, they're not going to put you in a McDonald's. They're finding legitimate places that is.
Maybe that's the difference.
It's the type of thing where you're getting a job in a career that is going to pan out to be something, and you're getting these real tangible skills where you could eventually work your way up to being a chef somewhere. And unfortunately, at a lot of these high schools, and I'm not going to point specifically to the one in Fall River, Massachusetts, but a lot of these high schools, when they provide a culinary arts program or a home ec program, it's just another elective, and kids then go and get a job at, say, a fast food restaurant. So it's not a comparison.
Up to management, that ain't too bad. But here I got my nephew who graduated from Diamond. He works for one of the major car dealerships, and they probably push him. At least not push him, but have programs that get him into certain dealerships.
Okay. I want to thank you for your call. Thanks for your
welcome.
input. Have a great day.
It's a good thing.
You got it. You're live on the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
Fine. You?
I'm doing unbelievably well. What's up?
Yeah, keep it up.
You got it.
Can't find fault with anything you say. You're absolutely right. And I remember years ago, and I'm taking it beyond vocational, and I'm 100% behind Vokes. I remember the day in the 60s and the 70s, and people in the Boston area would look down on people who went to Northeastern because, they're taking computers, and computers were new and all of that. Look where those guys are today.
Yeah.
Because they got into it.
You got it.
And they didn't hide behind a liberal arts degree, and they went into being practical. And think of, even if you don't go to Northeastern, if you go through a Voc school, there is Northeastern, but you could go to Wentworth, an excellent school, and you can get very good jobs through there in different types of engineering practices like that. 100%.
So the funny thing about what you're saying, and I've seen people with a 4-year degree who don't have a job stick their nose up at somebody who doesn't have a 4-year degree and is working.
You're right.
And,
absolutely.
And it's the sense of entitlement just because of the fact that they paid for their education.
Some did, some didn't. But you're right. And the vast student loans that are around somebody's neck, there are people who like those student loans because they're collecting on it. But this leads to something else. Like the United States, in our national debt, we owe it to bankers, primarily what is called the Bank of International Settlements. And you don't pay that eventually, they will have access to your nation. In fact, your nation is mortgaged. They'll have resources, they'll have labor, they'll have sites, they'll have property. Well, this goes to the individual, too. If you're in financial trouble if you're not careful. But there's more to the problem than that. I believe in raising other nations up to our level, which was what John Kennedy tried to do with the Peace Corps and things like that, not bring us down to theirs. So if we can help ourselves and help others in their own property and train them and guide them, and the ones that need it, I think everybody prospers. Everybody's better off.
Thank you so much for your points. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
And, it's very, very interesting because when you talk about expertises and what these schools are or expertise and what these schools are doing, I think that people at vocational schools should have access to advanced placement, and I think that people at a regular high school should have access to a vocation. But shouldn't they have access to the best of both of those things? And I think that trying to duplicate what somebody is doing really, really well is just reinventing the wheel. So call in, 508-673-1480. Let me know what you think. You're live on the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Good morning, Rich.
How you doing?
We're hanging in there. Since the federal government got into the student loan business, you've seen a large rise in the cost of education. I think it's going to be the bubble's going to burst next. First, there was the housing market. Remember that?
Yep.
With the mortgages?
Of course I remember that.
Next. More and more students can't pay off their student loans. And since the federal government's got involved with student loans, you've seen the prices skyrocket for college education.
Well, there's more colleges opening up than ever before, or there's more colleges now than there ever have been before. Not necessarily opening up, but there's more now than ever before. And it's because of the fact that they realize that, guess what? There's a lot of people who want to go to college and are willing to pay a ton of money for it, not realizing that all they're doing is ruining our economy.
Well, if you get rid of the federal student loans, you're not going to have all these kids going to school or going to college. Before it was private banks, you get a private bank school loan. Now it's federal government. Federal government, ever since they've been involved in student loans, you've seen the skyrocket. It's going up by leaps and bounds, far above inflation. And kids are using student loans for spring breaks, going on vacation, buying cars, whatever they're using it for. It's out of control. It's the bubble's going to burst next.
Here's a novel idea. How about we spend more money on secondary education so kids are in school longer, so they can acquire all the skills necessary to succeed in the workplace before they have to then go on and pay for an additional education. If education is truly the investment that is going to help our country succeed, why are we not spending money on that as opposed to the exorbitant amount that we spend on defense?
You know something, Rich? We need to get rid of it. The federal government needs to get out of the student loan business, bring the prices back down. That's what it's all about. As long as they keep feeding the machine, the price is going to continue to rise higher and higher and higher. I don't know how these students getting out of school with $100,000 loans. I really don't. They were headed for financial disasters around here.
And it's funny because even if they get out of school and they have $100,000 in student loans and they go and make $50,000 a year, their actual equivalent, because they're paying off those student loans, is something like $40,000 a year. But thank you so much for your points.
They can't just say, all right, I'm not going to pay the loan, I'm going to file bankruptcy. You can't do that. You got a federal student loan, you have to pay it. They'll take your house, they'll take your car, they'll take all your assets. You have nothing left.
That's the funniest part about
paper in your hand, and you're going to be homeless.
That's the funniest part about federal student loans is if you apply for bankruptcy, it's one of the only things that doesn't go away. Thank you so much for your call. Have a great day. You're live at legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
Very good, my friend. Very, very, very good. I'm the guy here that meets you on Friday while you eat your scallops at Nick's Hot Dogs.
You got it. So every single Friday, I'm at Nick's Hot Dogs on 534 South Main Street, where we're also going to do the word of the day today. But I'm there.
You know what's happening today?
What's
my
that?
Friend?
What's that?
Because of your show, and I want to put it out there, my son is going to be sleeping in his bed tonight.
Wow.
In his new apartment, handicap apartment.
Wow.
That housing and the sixth floor in this city, the mayor's office could not help me and did not help me with. Because of you.
And
this is going to happen.
Just for a recap for anybody who's listening right now, your son, he had a swimming accident and he became paralyzed and he was homeless. He was sleeping on a couch and had to be carried down 2 flights of stairs to get anywhere he wanted to go. He wasn't able to get his mattress that he needed because he was having bed sores, and we couldn't find him a place to live. And even though you reached out to state officials and local officials, nobody was able to help out. And you called in, and we, myself, Laura Washington, and a couple other people worked together to help try to provide you with what you needed. And it's great to hear that it's all working out, and he's sleeping in a bed that he deserves. He's being treated with the dignity and respect that he deserves, like any other American deserves.
Yes, my friend, it's happened. And one more person did reach out, couldn't get anywhere, was Alan's representative and Claire, their office.
All right, so Alan Sylvia reached out, and he tried helping out, too, and that's good to hear. So shout out to Alan Sylvia.
No one else did that I spoke with.
You got
except
it.
You.
Thank you. Thank you so
very
much for your call, and thank you for the update. I'm sure everybody was concerned. Have a great day.
You too.
And we're going to pick up the conversation. The lines are lit up right now. You're live on the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How you doing today?
Not bad. Not calling so much on education-wise, just calling on your food of choice. Before I go on a rant, I love Nick's hot dogs. I get the same thing every day. Spicy sauce, nacho cheese, the works.
Yeah.
But to say I get sea scallops from there, I don't think so, man.
I'll tell you what. So go over there and see me on Friday, because what they do is they get their sea scallops in. It's only on Fridays, and sometimes they have them on Saturdays, but it's $12. I've taken pictures, and actually you can go on the J&J Jewelers Facebook Live cam, or you can go to the Brain Drain Rich Cabaceres, and you can see the picture of the sea scallop plate. It is delicious, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I'm going to leave my seafood choice to Highland and Caldators.
And, you know, thank you so much for your call. And I'm telling you, you got to check it out, because it is an awesome, awesome experience. And whenever they said, hey, you know, you can get fish and chips for $7, sea scallops for $12, I go in there and I get it every single Friday, sea scallops. And I could have sea scallops anywhere. I literally could go anywhere and have sea scallops. And instead, I choose Nick's Hot Dogs every single Friday. And I'm there between 11 and 12 at 534 South Main Street in Fall River, Massachusetts. And you know why? Because their sea scallops are delicious. I have it every single time. But by the way, if you know the word of the day, when you go there, your first hot dog is absolutely free on me if you know the word of the day. And you know what the word of the day is going to be? I'm only going to say it once, so write it down. And you have to be there between 11 and 12 o'clock, 534 South Main Street, and that's 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., 1 hour. That word is vocational. So if you go there, you say that word to me, I'll be sitting at the end eating my delicious sea scallops. If you go there and you say that word to me, guess what? I am going to give you your first hot dog absolutely free. You're live on the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm good. I honestly feel sorry for the kids in school that have been basically indoctrinated into the idea that they need some sort of college degree in order to succeed. You know, it's actually very sad. And you see it, like they honestly believe this stuff. And, you know, it doesn't hurt. It really don't. But if you don't know exactly why you're going to college, I wouldn't even bother spending the money on it.
Well, a lot of times you see people go to college and they get this soft science degree or they get this liberal arts degree, and then they graduate and they can't find a job anywhere. So then they end up working this job that doesn't require a college degree. Again, the statistic from University of Washington says 53% of college students are unemployed or underemployed because they're working a degree that doesn't require a job. A job that doesn't require a degree.
Right, and they, you know, some of these people honestly believe too that your intelligence is measured by the number of classes you took and how many lectures you listened to. Honestly, I've never heard somebody prattle on about anything that did me any good. I consider myself fairly intelligent, and I know how to find answers for myself, and that's the best thing that I learned in school was actually how to do. How to teach myself, how to learn. That's the best thing that I learned in school.
I'll tell you what, that is one of the most valuable things that you can learn is how to find information when you need information and how to do it in an unbiased manner, aka the scientific method. And that's something that you should be learning in secondary education, right?
Right. Well, honestly, unfortunately, that has gone by the wayside by a large degree. Some teachers are really good, but for the most part, they are all products of the university system too, and they sit there and they're like sponges. They absorb all the information, and then they squeeze their brain, and it comes back out with no original thought, no innovation, no. You know what I mean? It's just. I'm sorry. I think like a vocational type of education where you do learn how to think and work out problems and social relations and all sorts of different things actually does a better job in educating people, right? It does a better job in teaching them how to find answers and how to think and then how to innovate.
And, it's funny because I hear you and I agree that it's the type of thing where people should be able to go and do these. I don't think an education or knowledge was supposed to be developed in an educational setting. I think that it was supposed to be the type of thing where you were supposed to learn the skills necessary to be able to learn more through life by doing your own research and become smarter by simply working with people who are your peers. So you should be able to pick up a book and learn from that book. You should be able to figure out whether a book is a valid source or invalid source, or whether a website is valid or not valid. You should be able to do those things using the scientific method. You should be able to take tests based on nothing more than reading. I'm of the opinion that you should be able to take the bar exam by nothing more than studying and studying and studying on your own. But unfortunately, there are tons of colleges making tons and tons and tons of money based on you going to school and following the same curriculum that they require everybody else to follow.
Right, and I just got one question. I'm going to leave it with this.
Sure.
How does a building contribute to that?
So ultimately, and I think it's a fair question, and I'm gonna hold you there. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna answer the question. I think ultimately you need a valid place to be able to work. And whether that's schoolwork or whether that's actual work, you need a place that is going to be conducive to that work. So if you're learning and roofs are leaking and there's mold and it's cold, the likelihood of you being able to succeed and learn in that environment is highly unlikely. Just like if you work at a place and it's cold and they're violating OSHA regulations and your boss doesn't care about you, you're not being paid adequately, and whenever you try to figure out a way to get more pay, they try to pull it back from you in some other manner. If you work in a place like that, the odds of you working at the highest efficiency level is highly unlikely. Why? Because you don't care about the actual place. Just like if you go to a school and you go to a place where they treat you like that, you don't care about your education because that's the way they feel about you gaining that education. So, unfortunately, if we set our children up for failure by giving them a place to learn where it's not adequate for the learning process, unfortunately, we're going to see that investment come back to us tenfold, meaning that our kids are going to be undereducated as they continue going on through life. And granted, there are people who are succeeding in an environment like that, but the likelihood of that is less and less and less and less as time goes on. You're live in the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
It's a fact that the Durfee that's there now is in decrepit shape. And you say they need a new building or a building that's conducive to learning.
Yes.
Well, one thing, if you think about it, Bishop Conley and Diamond Regional were built about 10 years before Durfee, roughly.
Okay.
You go in those buildings, they're beautiful. They're in great shape. They're immaculate.
That's because of maintenance, and because the building was bought and built properly.
Well, the building, they say, well, a lot of the money was siphoned out of the project and went into people's pockets, and that's what the reason was. And that could be true. But then again, there was a housing project. I don't know if you know this. There was a housing project in Somerset that was built, or a development that was built in Somerset. If you're going down Route 6, it's just after the Home Depot. You look to your right, you see all these little houses, what people used to call cracker boxes.
Okay.
Spinelli built those after World War II.
Okay.
And he built them for veterans, for the GI Bill.
And that happened a lot. A lot of the housing projects that you see today.
He basically siphoned off the money in his pocket. He did time in jail.
So a lot of the housing projects that you see today were based on, they were veteran housing at first, and then they became low-income housing.
But But he cut all kinds of corners. I mean, there were problems with those houses, people, and he just took the money.
Okay.
But you know something? Those houses are all still there because people took on and took care of the problems. Over time, the problems in the houses were resolved. They're not going to be anything glamorous, but they don't have the issues. Well, Durfee the city could have done the same thing with Durfee. Over time, resolved those issues, but they didn't do it. They just said, let the next guy worry about it. Let the next guy worry about it. And as a result, it's got past the point of being repairable.
It's funny because...
And that's robbing the taxpayer of the city.
It's funny because I think that you're right, but the issue is at the time people were spending less money on education to make sure that it was going towards things like public safety.
What do you mean by less money on education?
Because ultimately,
you had schools.
Wait.
You had
So
schools all over the place that were being.
I allowed you to talk. I'm just trying to finish making a point. So please. So that being said, they spent. If there was a shortfall in, say, public safety or infrastructure to repair roadways, it would come from education because it was pre-net school spending. So, unfortunately, a lot of that money came from maintenance of these buildings. And what happened is we had years and years of lack of maintenance because they just kicked the can down the road and somebody else would take care of it. And that didn't just happen in the school buildings. That also happens in a lot of the municipal buildings that are owned today. And that's not just in Fall River, Massachusetts. That's something that happens around this country because politicians, a lot of times, don't have a financial background, but they know how to say the right things to get elected.
Well, in this part of the country, maybe. But that's one of the reasons why Fall River always operate on the rim of the bucket, because the attitude is, let the next guy take care of it.
And that's not the attitude that's appropriate. I agree with you on that.
You're going to have a new high school, but it'll be the same cycle all over again. The beat goes on. And who pays for it, ultimately? The property owner.
I think that's a fair concern, but it's up to the people that you elected to office to make sure that doesn't happen.
They had the chance to vote it down and say no. Be accountable for what's happened, and 16% of the people turned out. So, hey, you can't blame them.
Well, here's the thing. Have a great day. And here's the thing, and I wish you a great day, but when you talk about investing in a high school, it needed to happen. It needed to happen regardless of how you were going to pay for it. It absolutely had to happen. The question in my mind was, how do you pay for it? And the second question, which you actually brought up, was how do you make sure that you maintain it? What measures are you putting in place to make sure that this continues to be maintained and money isn't going to be siphoned to go to other pet projects? Because that is a valid concern, and that will be a valid concern that you should have for the next 30 years. Also, on top of that, I'd also have the valid concern of the argument that you're not going to have to pay this in 8 years. You're going to have to hold your government accountable on that, because really the argument is that you're not going to bond for anything else for the next 30 years, and that is how you're going to be able to pay off this debt service in an 8-year period of time. Makes absolutely no sense, but I think it was one of those things just to convince people to get them to vote. You're live in the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
So.
What's up?
Money is irrelevant in education because back in the early 1800s, they had people in the early 1800s. Let me rephrase that. Today, college-educated students can't even pass an 8th grade test that was set up in the early 1800s.
I'm going to put in.
They didn't have any backing by the government. It was regular teachers that were just lived in the area, and they didn't have any indoor heating like they do today, no air conditioning like they do today. So none of that is got to do with anything about education. The money is irrelevant. It's the way that they teach the children.
So here we go. Your statement about people can't pass 8th grade questions if they have a college degree, you're on point. All you have to do to get a college degree is show up and do the homework. And if you don't even have to remember the information. You pass the test, and a lot of times if you show up and you work hard, they're going to make sure that you're passing. You just graduate. So you can have an 80 IQ. You could be unintelligent as hell. And guess what? You're going to be able to still get that college degree. And I say this statement on a regular basis. Some of the dumbest people I know have bachelor's degrees. That's scary. Because really, the system is supposed to be set up to help you increase your intelligence, but really all it's doing is giving people an education, and all education is a document.
People need to read The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America.
And, it's funny because I'm reading it right now, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that she's saying in that book, but thank you so much for your call. Have a great day. You're live on the legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Rich.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. One of the things I think you were hitting on with the previous caller is the idea of grade inflation.
Yes, and you know about that firsthand because you were a teacher.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, in my latter years, and I did it for a long time and I loved it, because I always had a philosophy, very simple philosophy. It's about the kids.
Right.
It's not about me. Yeah, do I want a good paycheck? You bet I want a good paycheck, just like everybody else does.
Right.
But what goes on in the classroom is about the kids.
Now, here's the interesting part about colleges. They have more people go based on the success rate of people graduating and fully completing. So there's an incentive for teachers to make sure that kids are passing and not failing out.
Yeah, we hear stories about this. If you're going to be a tough teacher, demanding teacher, to me, a demanding teacher cares about the kids.
Right.
You're going to take grief today. How many kids have to go to college today and they need remedial courses? That's ridiculous.
And it's funny because usually you see two things at some of these major universities. They require two things. You have to have a certain passing rate, and you have to do some research. You have to be accepted by your peers with some writing that you do.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, and this is one of the things I like about junior colleges, it's more oriented to the teaching.
But even then, junior colleges require or are demanding a certain pass rate to make sure that people continue to go to the junior college.
But it's not about the research so much.
Right. Teachers are teaching.
I'm a firm believer in we got to start rethinking education bigly.
I agree 100%.
Steal that word. We worked on the old model of education. One of the problems I saw with education is that a lot of people were interfering with us and telling us what to do. And a lot of their ideas, whether it was a new math, whether it was the open classroom, whole language, you could go on and on, were just stupid ideas. I'll close with this idea.
Sure.
In a time where money is tight, you got to, first, I've always told the kids, you think long and hard about what you want to go into. I used to tell them what I paid to go to college, and they didn't believe it because it was so cheap in my day. You don't have the luxury for that. You don't go to college. I majored in chemistry. Did I really need to take social sciences, political sciences? Of course not. And what were the worst courses I took? And this is going to be the irony. The absolute worst courses I ever took were in the education department. If I could gut a department, it would be the education department. Okay, you want to be a teacher? Great. My job is to get you out with a master teacher and learn the ropes that way.
Yeah, just like any other gig, right? You need to go out and learn it in the field because everything that you learn,
if you will,
everything that you learn behind a desk usually isn't a solid. Usually it's gray because people have fluctuated in the actual field to make it workable for them. They still make sure they follow the laws, but some of the constants that are required or told to you in the learning environment aren't necessarily true, and you can put that in any field in the entire world.
Absolutely. You look at you heard your talk with Mr. Aubin this morning. I'm a great admirer of the vocational system.
And, by that being said, Mr. Aubin is an unbelievable example of what a vocational education can do.
Absolutely. The one problem you're going to have is it's obviously becoming more technical.
Right.
You're not going to have a mechanic soon with simply a wrench in their hand.
Well, it's funny because the cars that they're working on, they require them to have a certain amount of computer technology just to work on them. And you heard him talk about some of these self-automated cars.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to want to work on those. They're working on 3D printers that cut metal right now in the machine tool program. They're working with computers in drafting, and they're building computers in the electronics program. They are doing some unbelievable things at Diamond.
The funny thing is, we're a victim of post-Sputnik, where survived to beat the Russians, and everybody had to go to college, and that just was never true, and it's less true than ever right now.
And the
I agree
statistics
with
don't
the
support
previous
it.
caller. The next boom, the next bubble is going to be these college loans.
I agree 100%. Thank you
Hey,
so
you
much
take
for your
care,
call.
sir.
Have a great day. And it's funny because right now, and again, this is a statistic coming out from a university in Washington, that is. So it's the University of Washington, the big one, the W. 53% of college graduates are unemployed or working in a job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. And 34.3%, according to the Federal Reserve, 34.3% of college graduates work in a job that doesn't require a degree. So these are legitimate statistics coming from legitimate sources, and that's a really baffling statistic. So if 34.3% of people who graduated from college aren't working a job that has a college degree, why are we going? You're listening to Brain Drain on the legendary 1480 WSAR. On the other side of the break, we are going to be in our final segment. That means this is your last opportunity before the weekend to have a conversation with me about what you think about education. Education as a whole, vocational education, the investment on education, and the cost-benefit analysis between whether you should go to a vocational school, get that high school diploma from a vocational school, go straight to work, or graduate from that vocational school, go off to college, and be that much more valuable to an employer. Or just go to a regular high school, go to a 4-year degree, and see if you can go and make it out in the workforce. We're going to go straight to the calls, and we're going to let you talk about education and how you think we can make our education system better, and what is the best path to succeed with an education. Is it a 4-year degree? Is it a master's degree? Is it a PhD? Is it a vocational education? Cost-benefit analysis-wise, what can we do to make sure that our kids are getting the best possible education and earning a living after they get that education? You're live in legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Good to hear.
One of my best friends is a housing developer. Started off as a carpenter right out of high school. Started building single houses on his own, worked his way up, multi-millionaire, and owns and flies his own airplane, now talking about getting a jet airplane. Tremendous success stories. I could tell you dozens of them.
Now, it's funny when you talk about things like that, because a lot of times what I see is people start off in the trade, they work a few years, and then they realize that they have a hiccup because they need a college degree in a certain sector in order to be able to make themselves better. And you see that sometimes. People will leave college, schooling for 5-6 years, and they'll say, maybe an MBA will help me make that next level, and they have a career-directed set of coursework done in college. And that potentially helps them out more so than just going to college and saying, hey, I'm going to just kind of check it out for a couple of years and get this soft liberal arts degree or the soft science degree.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. My son-in-law, great worker with his hands, knew automobiles when he was a young teenager, got a job with an automobile firm right out of high school, dealership, worked his way up, became a service manager, worked there for 5 years. It saved his money when he did so. Then he went to University of Dartmouth and became an electrical engineer. Now he's been a successful engineer for many years with General Dynamics. Self-initiative.
And that is the important part. And one of the things that you're learning at a vocational school is not only the ability to be able to go out and make a good living, but you're also learning critical thinking skills. So you're able to think with your mind as opposed to just learning how to pass a test. I want to thank you so much for your call.
Wait a second.
You got it.
Can you wait a second?
Yeah, go for it. But we are in our final segment, and I want to allow other people to speak, so go for it.
I'd just like to give a plug for the military.
You got it.
Military Services offers hundreds of technical jobs, not combat jobs, not jobs what you see in the movies with snipers and all this. They offer hundreds of technical jobs, and they're the best trade jobs that you can learn in the world. And 4 years in the military, you can get credits toward going to college after you get out.
And they'll pay for that college for you.
And they will pay for that college for you, right. So there's my plug for the military. I did 34 years.
Thank you so much for your call. Have a great day.
Welcome.
You're live with legendary 1480 WSAR. Good morning. Hello.
Hi, Richard?
Yes, how you doing?
Hi, it's your sister.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. good. I just wanted to say, so obviously I went to college, went to BCC for my associates, transferred over to Bridgewater, which had much less of an education at Bridgewater than I did at BCC. I'm a psychology major. BCC offered, on the training, on the school training, the professors were amazing there. And then I go to Bridgewater, and it's like you said, the research was what and the books, looking into the books is what was the most important thing at Bridgewater. And then I went to go get my master's, and that's where I can actually be in the field. But one thing that I do notice that kids get from college, where they don't necessarily get from the vocational portion of it, is that they learn outside of, let's say, growing up in Fall River. You learn there's a certain culture there, and that's pretty much all that's there. Fall River is very Portuguese oriented, and there's a certain set of beliefs, and you're not very cultured growing up in Fall River. If you go off to college, you learn about other people and learn about other cultures and learn about other things. And I think that people that don't have that miss that opportunity, and almost there's a side of ignorance to them. So I think that college is beneficial in that way as well.
And I agree with you. I think that one of the most important things that you can do as a high school graduate is go learn different cultures. And I had that opportunity through the military, as you know. You did that through college, but you got to learn about people who weren't like you. And I think that is so important. And you developed a lot because of that, right?
Absolutely. Again, being a psychology major, you can't, if you are stuck in your culture and you're stuck in the weight of your life, then you cannot help other people. You can't branch out and help other people. And that's obviously what my goal was when I was going to school. So going off to college and seeing other people and seeing different cultures and being friends with other people that don't believe the same things that I believe in, really helped me branch out so that I could help other people that weren't necessarily just like me.
Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end of the show, and I want to have this conversation with you more so because I think it's an important conversation, and I want to give you a quick plug. That's the Master of Social Work, and that is my sister. So congratulations on your successful education and work in the field and your successful life around you. So I really appreciate you calling in. Have a great day. And